I welcome you to my channel. Subscribe and listen to my new stories every day. The afternoon sun was still high as I turned my key in the lock a few hours earlier than usual. The rhythmic hum of the city outside faded into the background as I stepped into the cool, dimly lit foyer of our apartment. It had been a taxing day at the office, and the prospect of an unexpectedly early end to my workday brought a small, welcome lift to my spirits. As I shed my jacket, the muted but unmistakable sound of conversation trickled in from the living room. Instinctively, I paused. It was Jenny's voice, honey-sweet and tinged with a laughter I hadn't heard directed at me in months. "Come back tomorrow, he won't be home," she chirped, her words floating through the air like dandelion seeds caught in a breeze. A chill pricked the back of my neck. Who was she talking to? My feet moved of their own accord, carrying me silently towards the archway that led into the living room. Peering around the corner, I spotted Jenny's back, her blonde hair cascading down in waves, phone pressed against her ear. I retreated as quietly as I had approached, a storm of confusion brewing inside me. That night, over a dinner she made with more care than usual, I watched her. Her smiles, her laughs, her stories about her day, they all seemed like a performance now. I responded in kind, acting the part of the oblivious husband, all while a plan began to crystallize in my mind. The next day, I left for work at my usual time, but instead of heading to the office, I found myself driving aimlessly, waiting for the hours to pass. As the clock neared the time of yesterday's phone call, I steered my car back home, my hands gripping the steering wheel with a mix of dread and determination. As I approached our apartment, the reality of what I might find battled with the hope that it was all a misunderstanding. But as I opened the door, the scene before me cut through any remnants of denial. There, in the living room, was Jenny, laughing as she strummed energetically on my brother's old guitar, his most prized possession that he'd left in my care. The realization hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't just any secret she was keeping, she was sharing a personal piece of my family with someone else, treating it like a mere toy. Jenny looked up, her smile fading as she saw me standing there. "Mark. You're home early," she stammered, setting the guitar aside as if it were suddenly red-hot. The room felt as though it were closing in on me, each of her words echoing like a taunt. The image of her with the guitar, a symbol of my brother's trust in me, was etched into my memory. Betrayal seeped into the crevices of our life together, and with it, a dark resolve took root. "I can't believe this," I managed, my voice a mix of rage and disbelief. "It's not what it looks like," she began, but I turned away, unable to stomach her excuses. My mind was made up. This charade of a marriage was over, and my next steps were clear. Revenge would be my new companion, and it would start with ensuring that this day marked the end of everything Jenny held dear. As I walked out of the room, her pleas faded into the background, drowned out by the pounding in my chest. The stage was set for retribution, and there was no turning back now. The city buzzes around me like a hive disturbed, but the noise does little to drown out the chaos within. I walk aimlessly, each step echoing the turmoil of betrayal that weighs heavily on my shoulders. As the sun sets, painting the skyline in shades of fire and ash, I finally make my way to a small, dimly lit bar on the edge of town. It's the perfect place to plot revenge, away from prying eyes. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of old wood and spilt beer. I choose a secluded booth in the back, and as I sit, my phone vibrates. It's a text from Jenny, her words a desperate plea, "Please, let's talk about this. I can explain." I stare at the message, the letters blurring into meaningless shapes. I type a single word, "No," and turn the phone off. Tonight is not about her, it's about setting things right. I pull out a small notebook from my jacket, the one I used for work meetings, and now, it serves a new purpose. I scribble names, dates, and places, each word a step towards dismantling the life Jenny cherishes. She loves her job at the art gallery, her social standing, her circle of friends. I know these are the first threads of her life I'll pull. The bartender, a middle-aged man with a knowing look, approaches and sets down a drink without asking. "Looks like you could use this," he mutters, before retreating back to the bar. I nod my thanks, taking a sip, letting the sharp burn of whiskey steel my resolve. My plan begins with a visit to the gallery tomorrow. Jenny has always been proud of her curated exhibits, and I know she's vying for a promotion. I have contacts there, people who trust me and who will listen. A few whispers about doubts in her loyalty, a hinted scandal, and her reputation will start to crumble. As I plot, my brother, Dan, calls. I hesitate before answering. He knows nothing of today's discovery, only that I am in distress. "Mark, what's going on? You sounded off earlier." Dan's voice is laced with concern. "It's Jenny. I found her with your guitar." "It's not just that, Dan. There's someone else," I confess, the words tasting bitter. A heavy silence follows. "I'm so sorry, Mark. Anything you need, just say the word. I need you to stay out of it for now. Just, keep the family from asking too many questions," I reply, knowing keeping him distant will protect him from the fallout. "Understood. But look after yourself, brother," he says, a note of caution in his tone. As we hang up, a cold clarity settles over me. Jenny's deceit will not just be exposed, it will be avenged in such a way that she cannot simply walk away from the ruins. This isn't just about a broken heart, it's about restoring a balance that she shattered. Finishing my drink, I leave the bar and step back into the night, the city lights flickering like distant stars. The path ahead is clear, lined with shadows and whispers, and I am ready to walk it. Jenny's world, built on lies and secrecy, will soon find itself exposed to the harsh light of truth. The game has just begun, and I am determined to be its master. The morning light casts long shadows across the city as I make my way to the art gallery where Jenny works. The streets are busy, the air brisk, and I pull my collar up against the chill. Today, the gallery hosts an important exhibition opening, crucial for Jenny's promotion. She'll be there, surrounded by her colleagues and the city's elite, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. As I push open the glass doors of the gallery, the serene white walls and soft lighting contrast starkly with the turmoil inside me. Jenny is there, radiant and confident, chatting animatedly with a group of well-dressed patrons. She hasn't noticed me yet. I take a moment at the entrance, scanning the room for Robert, the gallery owner and an old acquaintance. Spotting him near a vibrant abstract piece, I make my way over. His smile is warm, but the concern is evident in his eyes as he greets me. "Mark, good to see you. Everything all right?" Robert asks, his gaze searching. "I wish it were under better circumstances. There's something important you need to know about Jenny," I begin, lowering my voice. The gravity of my tone catches his attention immediately. Robert's expression tightens. "What about her? Can we talk somewhere private?" I request, casting a glance towards Jenny, who remains oblivious to our conversation. Leading me to his office, Robert closes the door behind us. "What's going on, Mark?" It's difficult to say this. Jenny's involved in something unethical. I found out she's planning to sell gallery pieces on the side to private collectors, undercutting you and the artists. I fabricate the lie smoothly, feeling a twinge of regret at the ease with which it comes. Robert's face hardens, the implications of my words not lost on him. "Are you certain of this? It's a serious accusation. I overheard her arranging a deal." "I thought you should know, given your trust in her," I continue, my resolve firming with every word. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Mark. I'll handle it from here," Robert says, his tone now icy. I nod, exiting the office, and pause to observe Jenny through the glass wall. Her laughter rings out, carefree and unaware of the storm heading her way. I turn away, a hollow victory settling in my chest. As I leave the gallery, my phone vibrates. It's a text from a private investigator I had hired days ago, confirming that he's sent the information I requested. I open the email attachment, photos and messages that suggest Jenny's infidelity, though I know they're just a part of the facade I'm constructing. Later that day, I visit the local newspaper office, a bundle of fabricated evidence in hand. I meet with an editor, an old school friend who owes me a favor. It's a scandal involving a prominent city art gallery. It could be big for your paper, I suggest, handing over the documents. He scans them, interest piqued. We'll run a story on this. Good find, Mark. As the pieces of my revenge fall into place, a cold satisfaction washes over me. Jenny's professional and personal life will soon collide spectacularly, the repercussions of her betrayal mirroring the destruction she wrought in my heart. Walking back through the city, the setting sun casts a golden glow over the streets, but the light does little to warm the chill inside me. I've set the stage for Jenny's downfall, the first act of my retribution complete, and yet the weight of my actions grows heavier with each step. The game continues, and I am its reluctant architect. The city wears a mask of normalcy this morning, but beneath it, a storm brews, a storm I have meticulously orchestrated. My steps lead me once more to the gallery, this time to witness the fallout of the news piece that hit the morning headlines. The scandal has set the entire art community abuzz, implicating Jenny in a scheme of deceit and corruption. The gallery is swarmed not by art lovers, but by reporters hungry for a story and patrons murmuring their disbelief. Inside, I spot Jenny, her usual grace replaced by frantic desperation as she tries to weave through the crowd, denying the allegations to anyone who would listen. Her eyes meet mine across the room, and for a moment, there is a flicker of something like recognition of her fate in her gaze. I make my way to her, each step deliberate. As I approach, she reaches out to me. Mark, please, you have to believe me. I didn't do any of this, she pleads, her voice barely audible over the cacophony. I wanted to believe you once, Jenny, I say quietly, leaning in so only she can hear. But every lie has its day. Before she can respond, Robert, the gallery owner, intercepts us, his face hard and unforgiving. Jenny, you need to come with me. We need to sort this out, now, he demands, taking her arm and leading her away. Her eyes search mine for something, anything, but I offer nothing but a cold, final glance. As Jenny disappears into the back with Robert, the private investigator texts me, "It's done. The evidence has been placed." At my instruction, he has planted additional evidence of her supposed embezzlement in her office, sealing her fate. Leaving the gallery, I feel the weight of my actions, a mix of satisfaction and a hollow emptiness. The first part of my revenge complete, I decide it's time for the final act. I drive to my brother's house, where I know Jenny will eventually seek refuge or try to explain herself. I arrive to find Jenny already there, speaking animatedly with Dan, who looks conflicted and upset. As I enter, the room falls silent. "Mark!" Dan exclaims, a hint of relief at seeing me. She says it's all a misunderstanding, that. It's no misunderstanding, I interrupt coldly, my gaze fixed on Jenny. The lies, the deceit, it ends today. Jenny's face crumbles, and she steps back, shaking her head. "You did this, you set me up," she realizes, the color draining from her face. "Yes," I confirm, my voice void of emotion. "To show you just how deep betrayal can cut." Dan looks between us, his expression torn. "Mark, this isn't you. This hate, it will consume you." "Maybe it will," I concede, "but it serves her right. She's lost everything now, her job, her reputation, her friends." Turning to leave, I pause at the door. "This is where our paths end, Jenny. In betrayal and loss. I hope it was worth it." With those final words, I step out into the cold, leaving behind the shattered remnants of relationships destroyed by deceit. As I walk away, the full realization of my actions begins to settle in. There's no satisfaction in this conclusion, only the bitter aftertaste of revenge. The city stretches out before me, indifferent, and I'm left to ponder the cost of vengeance, paid in full by all involved.